Riveting content. Empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv. Patience and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680.
Welcome back to InJustice on the Sphere Podcast Network, where we discuss the laws of the land and how they affect you, the people. I'm your host, Brennan Dunn. You can reach me on Twitter at LegalMind. That's mine with a Y, because there's always a question to be asked and answered. Joined as always by the vivacious and illustrious Alicia Ford. How are you,
Why,
Alicia?
thank you, Brennan. I'm doing well. Welcome back, everybody, to InJustice on the Sphere TV. I'm your co-host, Alicia Ford. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AllieOnSphere. And Brennan.
Yes, Alicia.
We're in a new space.
We have moved on up to the Upper East Side.
Well, then now, tell us, is there anything new in the news?
There is, and there are things new in the news today.
Oh.
We'll start over in the West Coast, over in Cali. Killer cow. And I say killer because they're talking about a killer STD out here, HIV.
Okay.
The state of California, under the auspice of the Governor Jerry Brown, was it Jerry Brown, I believe his name is?
Yes.
Yes, Jerry Brown, has just signed into law a measure to reduce the status of the crime for HIV, knowingly and intentionally exposing someone to HIV. In essence, the crime was once a felony. Mm-hmm. Now it has been reduced to a misdemeanor. So instead of being someone who potentially has to serve anywhere from 3 to 5 or 8 years in state prison, we're down to misdemeanor time, which will usually net you about up to a year in the county jail. I think that the reason for this particular measure was because they want to take away the stigma of HIV being this deadly disease, a murderous type of disease, and one that's a treatable disorder, I guess would be treatable manifestation. And I think that when we look at HIV, this is more about the people who have it rather than the act of giving it. Saying we don't want for people to feel like they have this type of disease where people with it are the kind of people that are felons.
That could not possibly be what his thought process is.
I'm trying to
because I will be manifesting myself at the mayor's office with some manifest words for him out of my head because there's no.
Well, look, he said it specifically, and I quote: "Today, California took a major step toward treating HIV as a public health issue instead of treating people living with HIV as criminals."
Well, no, my thing about it is, it is a deadly communicable. What part of it do we not understand that it's a deadly communicable disease and it's not something that we are getting under control because it's still afflicting minorities and the African American population more than anything. But you're trying to say, hey, we are not trying to stigmatize somebody that has it. Here's what: they're not stigmatizing anyone who tells someone, I have HIV, and if you still choose to have sex with me, that is your choice. They're not putting him in jail for that. That's foolish. Well, you are putting somebody in jail who knowingly has HIV and does not tell somebody that they have HIV.
People don't kill people. AIDS kills people.
Why are you here today?
I'm just trying to be an advocate for AIDS.
Just trying to get no. There is none.
I try. But I do think that with the advance in technology, sometimes the laws have to change to mirror and reflect advances in technology. One of those being that if at one point AIDS was the type of disease that you got that it was a death sentence. At this point, it's not. It's very treatable, very manageable. It's something that people live with each and every day. As a matter of fact, in Africa, it's become one of the most manageable experiences that you can have.
Did you just really
countries.
just say that to me on purpose?
I'm just
the
saying.
most manageable experiences that a person could have.
Look,
Like a manageable
when
experience
life gives
is
you
waiting
AIDS,
in line.
you make
No,
lemonade.
Anybody that is living with this disease, if you tweet Brennan any foul words, any curses, I fully support you. And I don't think it's an issue of whether or not the disease is manageable. I don't think it's an issue of whether or not they're not making breakthroughs and advances
You
to help.
can't have
to
lemonade
help the,
without the AIDS.
But stop. What?
Huh?
My gosh, like you're totally, all I'm saying is it's not about the breakthroughs. It's not about the manageability. It's about the intentionality of a person who has this disease that's communicable, that's known to cause death if untreated, because what you're doing is you're not telling somebody you're infecting them with AIDS.
Right.
And so that means that and let's just say this person for some reason decides to be irresponsible and not have regular STD checks. This disease is now running rampant in their body, and you knew that. And that's a problem right there. So I'm not mad about anybody who has AIDS that tells somebody else, like, look, I have AIDS, and if I'd still like to have intercourse with you. And if they make that decision, that's their decision. And I feel if they can figure out a way to do it healthily and have a good relationship with that disease between them, that's fine. But this nonsense is a no-go.
Well, look, I really can't argue with you on this. All I am is getting thirsty. But we're going to move on to something else. We're going to head over to the north side of town, over to Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake City Police Department recently released footage from 3 different body cameras that shows Officer Clinton Fox shooting Patrick Harmon on August 13th in the back. This particular officer shot a man who was running away, and interestingly enough, prosecutors are saying that it was justified. Now, what's bothersome about this is that the officers give an accounting saying that, well, they saw a knife, that the man, Patrick Harmon, kind of lunged at him with the knife. However, these body cams don't really reflect, at least when I saw it, I didn't really see what they saw. I saw a guy kind of trying to edge his way away from the cops. They were handcuffing him. All of a sudden, he kind of takes off. The officers say, "Stop or I'll shoot." Within 1 second of saying "stop or I'll shoot," he shoots. This man who is running, he's got to be at least 5 to 7 yards away from him, facing the opposite direction of the officer. And yet this is what was deemed an appropriate action by a police officer. Now, I used to believe that there was something that I was told, maybe this is an old wives' tale or a myth, but there was something that I was told about officers aren't allowed to shoot fleeing suspects because their lives are not in danger at that point. However, what the police department is saying is that essentially, because he had a knife, because the officers felt like he might have been endangering themselves or had the potential to endanger somebody else because of this perceived knife, that they were justified in the shooting. This is, again, that slippery slope area that we talk about so much in when we justify the actions of cops and allow them to do things that anybody else might not be given the leeway to consider. And also what it does is give another buffer of protection to a certain type of cop who, but for the protections that we give him and afford him for the quote-unquote benefit of the doubt, would be doing the very things that we have fought so long and hard in this country to do away with, which is the prejudicial form of policing that we've had to deal with. And I think that it's never will I ever say that a cop's job is not hard, that a cop has to think quickly on their feet, that they have to make life and death decisions that you and I don't have to make within split seconds, that you and I as Monday morning quarterbacks will never have to make. However, when we talk about the responsibility that also comes with being a police officer, the scrutiny that we have to give them has to be paralleled to that responsibility that they have accepted. And I think that when we give these officers this kind of leeway, we are shirking our responsibility in scrutinizing them.
I mean, I completely agree. But how many times have we seen that somebody's fleeing and then we shoot? I mean, somebody's leaving and then we shoot. A suspect is standing and then we shoot. A suspect is being a suspect and then we shoot. And so for me, it just doesn't. I mean, do they not have a taser? Do they not have some kind of other means to stop this person? Or, I mean, because just as quickly as you ran for that gun, I'm sure you could shoot a taser to him and take him right on down and electro or whatever it does to them. I'd rather you give somebody a laceration with a electrical shock wound than you sitting there and shooting somebody fatally. And now we have to deal with the fact that, we somehow seem to always bring these dangerous Black people into custody, but yet our white counterparts could literally be shooting at you above your head, right around you, at your heart, and they would find a way to bring them in peacefully.
Look, I've seen video of majority suspects waving around assault rifles, yelling at cops, and the police officers talking them down, saying, we don't have to do this. We don't have to go there. And finally, this majority suspect getting put in handcuffs and walking away still breathing, while we have young Tamir Rice who sits there and is shot on a whim.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have any more right now. I just, what? And so I think there was a YouTube, and it was just like, I want to call into work because I'm Black, and I just want to take a day off just because I'm tired of being Black for a day. Like, I'm hurt. It's just, it's hard.
Well, that should be, instead of Columbus Day, we should have Black Off Day.
Yes, I mean,
just take the Black off.
I need to just chill out for one day just because it's a little hard to get up and be Black today.
I mean, because every day is White Day.
Stop it. But every day we need to let you know that this portion of the show is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. Did you know that only 4 states in the United States offer financial education? 33% or more than 77 million of Americans don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they don't have enough savings. Don't become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling a complimentary personal financial strategy. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463 or email us at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Ask us how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance are the new faces of the new age of financial services.
Well, there you go. And I want to move over to speaking in the same vein of cops and these decisions that they get to make. There's a video of a young African-American male who is slammed to the ground by a police officer after being engaged in a fight with another young white student. And I want the producers to roll this video real quick so everybody knows what we're talking about before we talk about it. And while he's pulling it up, let me know when you're ready for that. This is one of those issues that we're going to get into a little bit later with the NFL and why they're protesting. This highlights the difference in treatment based on just the visual. Just having a visual, you make a snap decision on who you feel is the threat in our society. And this is not dealing with adults. This is dealing with little children. And I just don't understand that no matter what, we're always in the wrong. And here's the video. Now, what you see in this video is black boy, white boy fighting. And you see a cop come up, completely ignores the little white boy and slams this little black boy to the ground. White boy dusts himself off. Whew,
and try
that's
again.
my time. Walks on away. While this little African American boy is the one who's being punished, and it's bothersome to me because again, it's the snap visual that we get with these children. And you say, well, they were both fighting. Somebody had to be pulled away from the other. But
you
let's
could have pulled away
that.
the child. Okay, so let me tell you, as a former teacher, there is a way that you can pull these children apart without having to slam somebody on the ground. I mean, when you think about it, you're just basically saying that this one child has done more wrong than another child. I'm not going to reprimand them and allow them to basically, have the equal time that they're going to have in the principal's office because they're both fighting. When I grew up was a suspension for everybody because nobody should be fighting. But instead, you see the little child, he just walks away like, well, I guess this is handled. And that's all that happened. So I can say that the way that little child was treated was ridiculous. I mean, and the way he picks him up and just slings him around with no remorse, it just is really disturbing. If that were my child, you slammed him into grapes.
Yeah.
What if you would have broken his ribs? I mean, it's so much. I mean, because if you can pick him up like that, obviously he's not much to you. So you're just slamming him, bruising up stuff. Who knows what you're doing to that child? And you're not really being effective. You're just basically showing again that there's a disparity in treatment of punishment of black children in every setting as compared to their counterparts of just about any race. And it's becoming a problem, especially in this Trump America, because I really wish that people would stop sitting here and playing this game of why don't we do better? Why don't black people do better? No, there's a systematic disenfranchisement of the African American community because we're black. Period, point blank. That is it. So if the people out there who have this crazy notion and belief about our deadliness or harmfulness, that you don't understand that the reason why you perceive us to be so wrong is because of the options that you never gave us, and now we have to do whatever we have to do to survive. I just wish people would stop. Not only do the majority not want to take issue with what they've done by deprivation of opportunities, they also don't want to admit that this is wrong. And it's too much sometimes.
Well, and part of that is the society. You can't blame it all on police officers, but you can say that society as a whole has continued to put monikers on African Americans that we in the media back when slaves were running rampant, and right after the 1865 act that freed slaves, you had media in the form of newspaper articles that would say, well, giant Negro attacks, this giant African is here, and they would have this Sambo looking ass person that they would show to reflect that. And you fast forward to even today, we got the FBI has just said that they say that black identity extremists are a violent threat because of their views on police brutality. First of all, what is a black identity extremist? These monikers that are given to us. When you talk about Black Lives Matter, and you say, well, the Black Lives Matter movement. First of all, why is it a movement? Why can't it just be the words Black Lives Matter? You created this movement by calling it a movement. All we did was say Black Lives Matter. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop the movement. Or is it simply a statement of fact? Well, and that's the problem that I have with this black identity extremist.
Well, I don't think, I really wish I could be surprised, but history repeats itself. So, I'm not going to sit here and be surprised that FBI is making a case file on anybody else who believes and is taking issue with social injustices in the world. It happened to Malcolm X. It happened to Martin Luther King. It happened to the Black Panthers. Please believe all of them had FBI dossiers too. So this is not a new practice this at all. This is just now it's becoming more transparent now that this is what they're doing.
Well, that's
so
the
am I
problem that I have.
surprised?
Well, you shouldn't
No.
be surprised. You should be disgusted because it's a perpetuation of the same. And when you talk about, but I mean, you're calling Black Lives, people that support the words Black Lives Matter extremists. How dare you call supporting the fact that I believe that my life matters just as much as yours is an extreme view, and it's based on the fact that not just historically, but statistically, that African Americans are dying at the hands of police officers at a higher rate than white people.
This is what's going to happen. Like, this country is going to have to go. You ever have to? You realize sometimes you got to go. You got to fall all the way down to get back up. And I feel like we're now descending. And we are descending, and we will continue to descend until we realize that all of the things and all of the beliefs, that all of this equality that we thought that we had really never existed. It was a fallacy based on somebody's ability to say, I'm going to give some of you this and I'm going to give some of you that. And so when we think about it, we're now reaching the point again where they're realizing that this movement is not going anywhere. And there's going to be uprisings as a result of it. And we have to keep deciding. We have to keep deciding that, our liberties, the liberties of the future, are better than our current comforts. I even have to believe that. And so we need to understand that as much as I wish that this weren't occurring, at least I know that you're watching me because you know that I'm making waves. So watch me. Watch me make waves. Write down as many words and periods and commas and semicolons about this as you want to, because you need to.
Well, it's good that you're making waves, but I need more people in people in positions of power and people that have the platforms to reach out to literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, to also take up that mantra and take up that burden. I mean, you look at the NFL right now. The NFL is just running amok with blatant disregard for the First Amendment rights the Constitution has afforded us, and with the rights of citizens to be able to protest in a peaceful manner, which they are allowed to do in the way that they've chosen to do it. We all have heard about the Colin Kaepernick issue, where Colin Kaepernick would kneel during the national anthem for all of last year, and as a result, he has yet to be put back on the team for this year. And in the wake of this, we've had more and more football players in the NFL take up the stand and start to kneel. But it's gotten to the point where, one, the issue that Colin was kneeling for is being overshadowed by the act of kneeling right now, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, which to me is just another shade tree tactic in subverting the real issue. And two, it's manifesting the real reality that as much as we think we've progressed, the people in power are still there to remind us we still hold the reins. And what do you mean by that, Brennan? Well, I mean that you've got people like Jerry Jones vis-a-vis Donald Trump saying that, look, on my team, if you decide you're going to kneel during the national anthem, guess what? You won't be playing for me anymore. In essence, saying that if you decide to assert your First Amendment right while I'm around, while you're on my time, then guess what? You're out of here. And there's nothing in the NFL procedures that says that they have to stand during the
believe they're changing that
during
right
the
now.
anthem. It says that a player should stand, but it doesn't say that a player will stand. And we know in the law that words like should, may, will, those really matter when it comes down to delineating what a contract is actually allowing you or disallowing you to do. And then you have the fact that with these particular players, first of all, they're under contract. So you're telling me you're going to breach these players' contracts by telling them that they're not allowed to play. And
it's not based on performance.
Well, no, but it kind of is, though, because most of these players, especially your top-notch players, have built into their contracts certain rewards and incentives that are built into their contract. If you get so many yards per game or per season, then guess what? You get an extra $1 million bonus. If you make so many catches per season, you get an extra whatever X X amount of dollar bonus. So when you tell a player that he can't play based on something that he's constitutionally allowed to do, you are then breaching his ability to fulfill his contractual obligation. And to me, this is one of those instances where you say, take a seat, young man, and let's take this to court.
Yeah, well, we're going to see who actually does that besides Kaepernick. But just to let everybody know now, we're going to have to end Facebook Live at this point. But just to let you know, you can subscribe to our show on all platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. Review our show on iTunes with constructive feedback. Share this on Facebook and post the entire show with your family and friends. Donate to our mission and bring rich and inspiring content to you each and every week at www.thesphere.tv/donate. Please help us. Come watch. We have many shows, and we are coming to you across the platform on the Sphere Network. And definitely keep it tuned, Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for being there with us. Happy to see you. Happy to have you.
Yes.
Facebook Live. And keeping in the same vein of the NFL, first of all, do you agree? Because a lot of people are saying the big argument is that aside from the right or wrongness of whether they should be allowed to, if there's disrespect to this flag or disrespect to the national anthem or not, should they be allowed to kneel during games?
Yes. I mean, look, it is freedom of expression, and they just happen to expressing it at a time when it's vitally important to them, right? The president always says nonsense on the job. Nobody has yet can fire him. Like, I'm sorry. It's about one and the same. Everything that the president is doing now, he's trying to say is bad that the players are doing it. You're sitting here popping off on the mouth on our dime, Mr. President. These people are deciding, and these football players are deciding to kneel at a time when they feel it is important to them. It is one and the same freedom of expression. And I'm sorry, I just can't, I can't deal with it. I can't deal.
Well, it's funny that you're talking about the president with this, because Vice President Mike Pence recently went to a Colts and 49ers game, and come to find out this was a premeditated action by Mike Pence, but he ended up walking out of the game after watching several of the players kneel during the national anthem, saying that this was a disrespect to America, blah, 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 the usual, and walking out. Come to find out that he stated that the president told me, hey, when you go to this game, if they kneel, leave.
Well, here's the point. Like you said, this whole thing is a play for their base. That entire stunt. First of all, when have you ever heard the vice president go to a football game?
Well, they go to football.
I mean,
games.
they do, but when? I mean, he
guess
could
all
have.
the
He
time.
could have
I don't
went.
know- I don't know
I mean,
when.
I'm just saying he could have went last year when they were running for the primary season. But my point is, this sounds like a ploy and a play to the base, as in I'm going to go because I know that these people are going to be kneeling, and so what better way to get them riled up than if I go and I leave?
Well, what it sounds like to me is a dangerous territory that we're breaching here, in as much as you've got a sitting vice president taking taxpayer dollars. I think it cost them over $200,000 to make this
President
stop.
Obama can't even take Michelle out
to make this stop
dinner.
at this football game, to make this point about an issue where you are now saying, as the president and vice president of the United States, we don't agree with you asserting your First Amendment right.
You can say that you're right. You can say that you don't agree all day long, but don't do it on my tax time.
Well,
don't do it on my tax
not
time.
only on your tax time, but as the president, as the face of America, as the person who is supposed to be the idol by which the Constitution is upheld, you are saying that, hey, I don't like how you're utilizing the Constitution in this age-old portion of the first of the amendments to the Constitution, and saying that, you know what, as the president of the United States, I don't really think that you should be asserting your First Amendment right to free speech and your right to assemble and protest. That, to me, is bigger than any issue that any layperson could argue about. And we're going to talk about another person who's in the streets saying what she wants to say. But right now, I think it's it's problematic when your president and vice president have inserted themselves. It's one thing to have an opinion. It's another thing to use taxpayer money to talk about an opinion that goes against the very centerpiece of our constitutional beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had like a little woo, Brennan, no, but I really agree with you on this one. I mean, I wish we didn't have this president, but whatever.
Wait, well, I was going to say something but I don't want to ever go on record as saying something that could get me thrown in jail.
Oh, please don't.
So
please don't.
But I wish this
I
president
can only cover
all the health in the world, all the health to this president.
I agree. That is the best statement that you can make right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to say.
That's all I need to say.
That's all you needed to say.
But I do want to say something else before we move on to more issues on this, and that this portion of the show is sponsored by The Sphere. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at The Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. Now, again, I said we were going to stay in the same vein of discussion. We've got ESPN analyst Jemele Hill. Jemele Hill has had to take a forced leave of absence over the next couple of weeks for some tweets that she made in regards to the NFL. Now, ESPN has said that Hill has violated the company's social media guidelines for a second time after she first made a tweet about the NFL. And she wrote, "Change happens when advertisers are impacted. If you strongly reject what Jerry Jones said, the key is his advertisers." And we talked about Jerry Jones first, so we can talk about this. Well, what did Jerry Jones say? Hey, if you kneel on my team, you're out of here. And ESPN has said, look, she's espousing certain rhetoric that goes against what we believe in as a company for an employee to espouse. And you have to remember that ESPN has contracts with the NFL, so they don't want to bite the hand that pays them. But again, this is another one of those things where I'm wondering, are we now over-restricting freedom of speech? Or is she in the wrong?
Like, you really straddling a super fine line right there. And so I feel like she should have the right to say what she wants to say. She does have the right to say what she wants to say, and she said it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's her right. When you hit in and really, it's kind of like when you talk about, well, if you want to, about his advertisers, that's the only way. His advertisers are her advertisers. And in essence, you're talking about any time that there's a dollar to be lost, somebody's head is gonna roll here. And I'm not saying it's right that they did that. I'm not saying it's violative of the free speech, but I also don't know what it's in her contract. I don't know what's in her contract to say, like, you are not allowed to disparage our advertisers or make references to disparage anybody who could possibly advertise with us.
Well, here's part of my problem on this, and I can completely understand limiting Ms. Hill's speech rights while on air with ESPN. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have is that the way that they are construing these contracts and construing employer interaction is now such that you are technically an employee 100% of your day. Yeah. And that's the problem that I have, because at some point there has to be a release from my work obligation for me to have a personal life, fulfillment. And to say that at no time via social media, via just spoken word, can I say something that goes against ESPN's mantra, to me, that's almost like, I'm hesitant to use this word choice, but contractual slavery. In as much as, and I'm not talking about black versus white at this point, but I'm talking about the fact that you own a person from night to day and from day back to night.
And I think the point of it is that you also have to look at, she's a public figure. And so, I mean, she's going to have what she says is going to reach a far greater audience. And even still with viral, whatever it is we got today, that there is the thought that, you have the ability to reach a lot more masses because, I mean, it's ESPN. That's men all day long and whomever else and women, all day long. And so it's
Please don't forget our wonderful women. They are half of who we are. You should be disappointed in yourself.
As I was saying, but you're right. When do we have a chance to really stop and be ourselves and just be a regular person voicing what Twitter is used to do, which is express our thoughts, beliefs, ideas, and opinions? So it's a very fine line, because if you sign that contract, you sign up to the terms. And if the terms are you at no time can disparage our anybody or advertiser or reference advertiser or reference somebody who has a affiliation to this network, that's what you signed up for.
Well, it's funny because we talk about this free speech and we want people to be able to let us say what we want to say. But we go back to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has even cited FCC equal time rules. And it's blowing my mind. He has whined and cried about the fact that late night comedians and other media type personalities are putting on this one-sided attack against him in the things that he does. And he said, look, FCC, there's some equal time rules that you need to make sure you need to enforce, saying that if they're going to talk about me on one hand, well, there needs to be equal time given to talk about me on the other hand. How much of a big ass baby can you be to be crying about the fact of who's talking to you?
Well, first of all, this man should never have been president because your skin is not thick enough. Like, he is the biggest narcissist I've ever seen in my life. And I'm sorry. So basically, he wants us to live in North Korea, China, every other regime where you are not allowed to say anything against the government unless it's good. I mean, say anything about the government unless it's good. I can't imagine. I mean, I hope that they change the rules so that there's not equal time, because you have a right to say what you want to. And part of their late night is talking about what's going on. So they don't have to spend equal time talking about what good he's doing. He's not doing anything good. So they would be searching to find something. It would be dead air. Who wants to watch dead air?
So although he's bitching and complaining, does he have a point, though, that TV should not, or at least
no,
news media should not be slanted to one side?
What is he talking about? Is he talking about is he really talking about like a news network? Is it a late night talk show? I mean, what are you deciding?
He said, and I quote, more and more people are suggesting, meaning him and him more and more people are suggesting that Republicans, in parentheses, and me, should be given equal time on TV when you look at the one-sided coverage.
There isn't. I mean, I watch CNN quite a bit, and they bring on the paid pundits too. I mean, this man could sit here and say, we're about to kill every firstborn son of every woman in America, and somebody on CNN will get on there and be like, well, we do have an overpopulation problem, so the president has looked and studied this and the people around him, so he has equal time. I don't know what he's talking about. He has somebody to do it. Basically what he wants is every network to be Fox.
Well, hurt people and
I don't get it.
People keep hurting him, so he wants to lash out. I have never seen such an old baby in my life. This is almost like Benjamin Button. I just want him to get younger. Maybe he was better when he was younger. He was probably the life of the party at the toga parties and everything. Like, bring back the togas for Trump.
I just don't even think of anything good about
Let's
him.
make Trump great again. I think that's what we need to do.
We needed to start with something good in the first place.
Well, Trump. You got to remember, Trump is the kind of guy who picked himself by his bootstraps. He, took $1 million from his daddy and made something of himself.
And had 1 million bankruptcies. Had places where banks decided that he had sunk so much into his failed performance, his failed ventures, that it was in bad interest to let him fail. So instead of letting him fail, they let him out.
That's the problem with America. We see things from the eyesight that we want to see them with, whether it be 20/20 vision or racist vision. And another one of those people that does that is Mike Ditka, former Bears coach Mike Ditka. Appeared on one of the Monday Night Football pregame shows and was talking about this kneeling phenomenon in the national anthem and said that, look, I don't see all the social injustice that some of these people see. And that's a quote. He said, there has been no oppression in the last 100 years that I know of. Now, maybe I'm not watching it as carefully as other people, meaning maybe I'm not watching stuck my head in the sand and I forgot about the 1950s and the 1960s and the 1970s and the 1990s and the 2000s.
And the 2010s.
You want to talk about the last 100 years. You talk about 1919, the Red Summer, where you had over 26 race riots that happened involving African Americans and the fact that they just were not liked. You talk about 1954. It was the first time in Brown versus Board of Education where we were actually given integration into education and told, look, we are going to make y'all equals in this whole business. You talk about 1964 was the first time that the Civil Rights Act actually came into fruition, saying, look, we have to give black people the same type of enumerated rights that we give everybody else because we haven't done so up until this point. Talk about 1965 with the Voting Rights Act, where they finally had to say specifically, you black people will be allowed to vote in the same manner as us white people are allowed to vote. 1967 was the very first time that interracial dating was legalized by the Supreme Court in America. You want to skip over to the 1980s where you talk about Reaganomics and this push against cocaine and drugs, and that's going into the 1990s with Bill Clinton, where you discuss this whole prison pipeline in criminalizing heroin or criminalizing crack cocaine for black people, even though you're the ones who put it on us, and then telling us, skipping forward now, saying, well, you know what, we think that crack addiction is now more of a mental health issue and shouldn't be criminalized. We're going to take away this marijuana usage, and matter of fact, we're going to make it legal and let you make money off of it, so white people can have millions of dollars while black people still have felony records for that marijuana usage. You want to talk about something? Talk about the school to prison pipelines that we're talking about. You want to talk about something? Talk about each and every young black man who has died at the hands of police officers within the last 10 minutes. We're not talking about 100 years. I'm talking about the last 5 minutes where African Americans and racial oppression in this country has been at the forefront. Fuck out of here, Mike Ditka, with all the bullshit that you're talking.
The more you know. Brought to you by Brennan Dunn here on InJustice.
I'm sorry, I get it's not just that we don't have air conditioning blowing on me right now. I'm just hot and bothered because people say stupid shit.
Thank you. Well, but let's just understand that the NFL won't even acknowledge that CTE brain injuries are a real thing. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Mike Ditka is just, he's a complete idiot, and he is also living in his bubble where I'm sure he was one of these people who didn't want integration. So let's just not be, he was being, he wasn't even being facetious. He was just being what he was being, a person who wants to believe that black people and minorities are whining again. That's it.
And you talk about this whining thing, and it bothers me because even when you talk about this, it's hard to argue with people. It's hard to not even argue. It's hard to discuss certain issues with people that don't even understand the nature of the premise of what's being discussed. When you talk about, let's talk for just a second, this whole national anthem and flag thing that you're talking about. They're saying, well, you're disrespecting the national anthem and you're disrespecting the flag. You look at the national anthem. The national anthem has multiple stanzas in it. And if you look at one of those stanzas that we don't sing currently, that stanza praises the fact that it lauds and praises the shooting of slaves, of killing of slaves. And people say, well, those were the British. I had somebody argue me down saying, well, those were the British Africans that were over there and that they were talking about shooting them because they sided with the Brits. No, these were the slaves that revolted and wanted to fight to protect themselves. And you talk about this is the national anthem that lauds slavery. So why should I respect a song that has no respect for my ancestry? And you tell me that I'm disrespecting it. It's not about the song itself, but let's just think about the song itself. I don't give a damn about a song that does nothing to promote me. You talk about, well, it's disrespecting our military who fights for our freedom. And I'm about to say something that a lot of you may not like that much, but it's a reality. It's a fact. Name the last time that the military fought for our freedom in a war. The closest I can come to that is Pearl Harbor. And Pearl Harbor was a retaliation from the Japanese against us. You talk about the Iraq War. That wasn't about American freedom. You talk about the Afghan War. That wasn't about American freedom. You talk about the Korean War. That certainly wasn't about American freedom. You go back to World War I. That might hinge on American freedom, but it wasn't directly about American freedom. We fight over democratic superiority, saying that we think that democracy is better than communism or socialism. We fight over oil, saying that, look, we've got to have our pockets in this big industry and protect our interests overseas. We fight over other people's issues. And you talk about freedom and the fight for freedom. Our soldiers aren't dying for American freedom. Our soldiers are dying for rich people's interests. And that's the thing that we need to realize. And we don't talk about that, but we want to put this whole facade out there as if you're disrespecting the military. No. You disrespect the military by not giving them proper health care when they come back. I don't see anybody crying and bitching and complaining about all the veterans that are here homeless on the street talking about give me $2. We don't do that, do we? No, because VA benefits are shitty. VA benefits take forever to get, but where's the crying about that? And I got to stop for a second. I know you want to maybe respond. I don't
have anything to say. Like, I just feel like I'm here for you. Like, that's all.
We're in a new place.
I'm just here for you right now.
But let me go ahead and make these coins, because I know the producer's getting pissed off at me. This portion of the show is sponsored by Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We are committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are part of our family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Baptiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Chandra Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness at 713-789-8680. Anything you want to say before we move on?
I'm going to say, actually, we're not going to move on.
Okay.
You've said more than enough for today.
Well, then.
I just
got me sweating. I don't know if it's the lights or the frustration.
I want all the viewers to just simmer on everything. You've just dropped knowledge bombs, as the creator of the Sphere says, gems. I mean, I don't know. You've dropped potions. So what people need to do is just watch this again and then let it soak into their spirit. And then once it's soaked in, watch it one more time, because I don't think they caught it then.
And then feel free to leave your questions, comments, concerns on www.thesphere.tv. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed this segment of Injustice on the Sphere podcast network as we move up in this world, in these new studios. I hope to have many, many more new and wonderful adventures with you and our guests as they come, Alicia.
I always want to be here with you, Brennan.
Yes. Alicia, I wish you health. I wish you all the health.
And
all the health in the world.
I would just like to say thank you for watching this tonight on Injustice on the Sphere. You can find me, Alicia Ford Alley, on Sphere on Twitter and Instagram. We love to have you here on the Sphere. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Indeed. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.
Goodbye.